There are two ways we can look at philosophy. We can either study the great works of philosophers and try to interpret them, or we can try to understand the lives of certain philosophers and how their life experiences influence their philosophy. And sometimes there's an even better way, which is to do both. Socrates was a Greek philosopher from Athens who lived between 470 and 399 BC, and he is considered to be one of the founders of Western philosophy. Very little is known about his life, but what we know is pretty fascinating. In this video, we will try to get to know Socrates. Let's begin by looking at where Socrates got his nickname. Socrates was named after the son of King Aeolus, the mythical founder of the Cimmerian. The name appears in Homeric poetry, and according to Plato, Socrates chose to be called Socrates because he was like Socrates the Cimbrian. Just like Socrates the Cimbrian, he was a harsh critic of society and its norms. He hated tyranny, injustice, and evil, and he tried to fight against them. But unfortunately, just like Socrates the Cimbrian, he was unsuccessful in this fight and was eventually executed for his beliefs. But what did Socrates actually believe? The first thing we need to say about his philosophy is that he didn't write anything down. Everything we know about his philosophy comes from his students, especially from Plato. Plato was Socrates' student and he wrote down everything he learned from him. So when we talk about Socrates' philosophy, we're really talking about Plato's interpretation of it. But don't worry, this isn't a problem because Plato was a great writer and he was able to capture Socrates' ideas very well. Socrates' philosophy is mostly about ethics and morality. He believed that the most important thing in life is to be a good person and that we should always strive to improve ourselves. He believed that we should never stop learning and that we should always be open to new ideas. He also believed that we should never give up in the face of adversity and that we should always try to make the world a better place. These are very simple ideas, but they are also very powerful. They have inspired people for centuries and they continue to inspire people today. The second thing we need to say about Socrates' philosophy is that he was very influential. He helped to shape the moral and ethical values of Western civilization. His ideas about right and wrong, good and evil, justice and freedom have had a profound impact on the way we think about the world. In fact, some people argue that Socrates' philosophy is the foundation of Western democracy. He believed that every person has the ability to be good and that we should all work together to create a better world. His ideas about justice and fairness led to the development of democratic institutions in ancient Athens. And his ideas about freedom and self-determination have inspired people throughout history to fight for their rights and liberties. But not everyone liked Socrates' ideas. In fact, many people were very angry at him. They thought he was a troublemaker and a heretic. They accused him of corrupting the youth and of impiety. Eventually, he was put on trial and convicted of these charges. He was given the option of being exiled or put to death. He chose to stay in Athens, and he was put to death by drinking a poison called hemlock. But even in his death, Socrates was a martyr for his beliefs. He drank the poison without complaining, and he died with dignity. In this part of the video, we'll go over some of Socrates' most famous ideas. First, we will talk about the Socratic method. This is a method of teaching and learning that involves asking questions and answering questions. It is based on the belief that the best way to learn is by doing. The Socratic method is still used today in schools and universities all over the world. It is an effective way to learn because it helps students to think critically and to solve problems. The next idea we will talk about is the Socratic paradox. This is the idea that sometimes we think we know something, but we actually don't. Socrates believed that we should always question our beliefs and never be satisfied with our knowledge. He said that we should always be willing to say, "I don't know," when we are faced with something we don't understand or can't explain. This is a very important lesson for us to learn. It is easy to think we know everything, but in reality we don't know anything. We should always be humble and open to learning new things. Another important idea of Socrates is the idea of virtue. He believed that the most important thing in life is to be virtuous, and that we should always strive to be better people. He said that virtue is knowledge, and that the pursuit of virtue is the ultimate goal of human life. Now let's move on to another important aspect of Socrates' philosophy, namely his views on religion and piety. Socrates was a deeply religious man, and he believed that there is a God or gods who want us to be good and virtuous. He said that piety is more than just following rituals and customs. It is about doing what is right and living a good life. Finally, let's talk about Socrates' views on happiness. He believed that the key to happiness is to pursue excellence and to strive to be the best we can be. He said that happiness is not the result of pleasure or comfort, but of living a virtuous and meaningful life. So what can we learn from Socrates? First, we can learn from his example of courage and integrity. Even though he knew that he would be put to death, he still chose to stay in Athens and defend his beliefs. Second, we can learn from his wisdom and insight. He was a great thinker and philosopher, and he had a deep understanding of human nature and the world around us. Third, we can learn from his method of teaching and learning. He was a pioneer in the field of education, and his method is still used today to teach people all over the world. Finally, we can learn from his example of how to live a virtuous and meaningful life. He was a role model for what it means to be a good and virtuous person. We hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new about Socrates. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more philosophy content.